Greetings, students, and happy week number 2 in our exploration of how and why we change over time of human development. So here's kind of where we're at. Week 1, last week, we talked about research and the scientific method and how important that is, because everything in this class that we talk about, all the statistics that we give you, are going to be research-based. It's not because, well, my grandmother told me this is the way it is. It's going to be that we've done a study that proved that this is correct or that the information is valid. So we learned about research and the value of research. We learned how to do research ethically. And then we talked about conception. And finally, we talked about birth. So this week, in week 2, we jump into our first age group, which is the 0 to 2 age group. For each age group, remember, we're going to talk about 3 things. We're going to talk about what happens physically to us as we're developing in that age group. We'll talk about what is going on cognitively, or how our mind and brain is developing. And then finally, we'll talk about the most fun part to talk about, which is the emotional, or what we call the psychosocial development. So during that age range, what is going on inside of us? And so this week we talk about the 0 to 2 group, and we talk about those 3 things. In video number 2 for the week, when I go through our study session for the exam, I think I'll give you a lot more content or information about what you've been learning in your chapters for last week and this week. Now let's see what we have going on in week number 2. So we have case study number 2, which is near and dear to my heart, because it is the first research paper that I ever wrote. I wrote the paper, and then it was published in a magazine that has to do with college. And so this research paper was based on interviews that I conducted with foster youth that were students at Delta College. And we're looking at the topic of attachment. And we'll talk again a little bit in video number 2 about attachment. But I want you to explore the case study. I want you to read it. Half of the case study really talks about the stories of the individuals. And then the second half of the paper, which is what all research should do, is we point to what we should be doing. How can we improve this situation? For those who have been traumatized in their earlier years, and college is difficult, what can we do to help them as a university, as an institution of higher education? And so that's what the second half of the paper is about. I wrote this with my dissertation advisor, or my faculty member, so his name is on the paper. However, I conducted all of the interviews, and we wrote the paper together. So after you read that paper, you're going to jump into your group discussion and talking about, there was definitely a difference in the success of the 2 individuals, and why might that be? There's clues in the story as to why that might be, and we'll talk about attachment. Later in the week, I'll give you a 3rd video, kind of a follow-up or wrap up on where those individuals are at today, and a little bit more of the story there. So we have our case study. We then have our, of course, reflection, which again should be done at the end of the week. It should be done after you've done your case study, your group study, after you've done your exam, and you're kind of reflecting on what have you learned this week, or what's important to you. And then we have our exam number 1. So exam number 1 will open up on Thursday, and it will run from Thursday until Sunday midnight, which that means that at any time during those several days, you can choose to take the exam. I don't open it until Thursday because, again, I want you to have learned the material for this week, which is chapters 5, 6, and 7. So you should be focusing on your PowerPoint slides and your study guide for 5, 6, and 7. Hopefully you will watch video number 2, which would be my study session kind of preparation for you. And then again, at any time you can take the exam. So you can only take the exam once, of course. So you will start the exam, and it is a timed exam. I'm giving you 75 minutes to complete the exam. When I do this class face-to-face, I have some students that finish the exam in about under 25 minutes, right? I would say the average for most students is somewhere in the 35-minute range. So I'm giving you 75 minutes. So that's more than enough time to complete the 100 questions that are, again, multiple choice, true, false. There's no essay, there's no fill in the blank. That would require a little bit more critical thinking. Of course, since you're at home when you take this exam, I can't monitor what you're using, which means that you may use your textbook, you may use your study guide. I would definitely recommend that you use your study guide, since again, that is what the test questions are based on. So you will have your information with you as you take your exam. However, I strongly suggest that you do prepare and study, because if you spend half of your time looking up the answers, then again, this is a timed exam. You may find yourself running out of time to complete the questions. So I do think preparation is needed. So again, you can take the exam once. You should be able to find out your score right away, and you will be able to see the correct answers or incorrect answers after you've completed your exam. So that's what we have going on this week. Again, coming up next week, we have paper number 1. So let's talk about that. So paper number 1, again, I said that this class is based on several different types of assignments for the reason that some of you are different learners, and I think it's really good to have different methods of engagement or learning material. So paper number 1 is a written paper that is a minimum of 2 pages long. Again, I will ding you. I will dock points if your paper is short, because you can come up with 2 pages to write about yourself, although that's challenging for some of you to believe. You can. It's double spaced. So in the syllabus and also in the actual assignment, you'll find the prompt, right? So yours to talk about, if you want to talk about your family, if you want to talk about your hobbies, your work, your interest, you know, why are you here at Delta College? What is your higher education aspiration? What is your goal? And then we get to the real stuff, which is talking about what are some of your life accomplishments and what were some of your challenges, because we all have them. Life is kind of a series of what I think of as curveballs that are thrown at you. And how we react to those curveballs is really what forms us into the people we are. It's not whether or not we get the curveballs, because all of us do, right? Some of you have been through very traumatic times. Others have had maybe a little bit of a more cohesive or healthy life up until this point. It doesn't mean that there aren't challenges that lie ahead for you. We've all had that. I myself have been through life's ups and downs. I'm very fortunate to have the beautiful children that I have, beautiful home that I have, beautiful life. I love what I do, absolutely love teaching. I loved going to earn my doctorate degree. It was one of my great accomplishments in life. However, I've also had those curveballs thrown at me, right? I definitely am a survivor, not a victim of childhood molestation. I'm a survivor of domestic violence. And I'm a survivor of losing my only sibling, my only brother, to AIDS. And those 3 things, although I wish sometimes they hadn't happened in life, they formed me into the person that I am today. And I probably could not have persevered and achieved some of my successes had I not been through those trials, right? And so in this paper, I want you to explore that, because the more real you are about you and about the stuff that's happened to you, through no fault of our own sometimes, the more you will get out of this class, right? And you'll find I am a very real person, and I think that all of us are drawn to authenticity. We're drawn when people are vulnerable and real with us. And so I hope that you'll take advantage of that in this paper number 1. Again, I'm the only one who will be grading your paper. So it should have a cover page. It should be a minimum of 2 pages in text, full text, and talking about yourself. And then, of course, the third thing in that paper would be any challenges that you foresee, right? As far as using Canvas, as far as committing the time to the various assignments we have going on in this class. We've already had lots of drops because some people realize this level or pace of class is very fast-paced, and maybe that's not for you. Be aware of that. So sharing any of that. Again, I'm always available via your inbox or your message box in Canvas or through email, but please reach out to me. We also have our Student Lounge pin discussion if you have any just questions for the group in general. So again, look forward to the notification that video number 2 for the study session is available, and I hope you'll take advantage of that. Looking forward to another exciting, fun week in human development.